Gun rights and gun control in the United States and Canada differ significantly due to contrasting legal frameworks, historical contexts, and cultural attitudes towards firearms. These differences shape how each country regulates gun ownership, use, and restrictions. In the United States, gun ownership is constitutionally protected by the Second Amendment, which guarantees the right to keep and bear arms. This right has been interpreted by the U.S. Supreme Court to ensure individual gun ownership, creating a strong legal and cultural foundation for gun rights in the country. The right to self-defense is a key argument in favor of maintaining broad gun rights, and many Americans view gun ownership as a fundamental part of their national identity. In contrast, Canada has no constitutional right to bear arms. Gun ownership is viewed as a privilege rather than a right, and is heavily regulated by the federal government. Canadian laws emphasize public safety and strict control over firearms, with gun ownership often linked to specific purposes like hunting or sport shooting rather than self-defense. As a result, the cultural significance of gun ownership in Canada is much less prominent, with most Canadians supporting stricter gun regulations. Gun ownership rates in the U.S. are amongst the highest in the world. Somewhere around 40% of American households own at least one firearm, and the U.S. has more guns than people. In the U.S., firearms are relatively easy to obtain, with regulations varying by state. While there are federal background check requirements for purchases from licensed dealers, private sales are less regulated in many states, and concealed carry laws are more, relaxed in some areas of the country. Canadian gun ownership rates are much lower, with only about 16% of households owning firearms. Canada's gun laws are stricter and uniform across the country. To own a firearm, individuals must obtain a possession and acquisition license, or PAL, which involves mandatory safety courses, background checks, and continuous eligibility monitoring. Firearms in Canada are categorized into non-restricted, restricted, and prohibited classes, with strict rules governing ownership, storage, and transportation of restricted and prohibited firearms, including handguns and certain semi-automatic rifles. In America, citizens can legally own a wide variety of firearms, including handguns, semi-automatic rifles, and in some cases, fully automatic weapons, although these are highly regulated under the National Firearms Act. The types of firearms available and the regulations surrounding them vary significantly from state to state. States like Texas have fewer restrictions, while others like California impose stricter controls on certain firearms, such as assault-style rifles. In Canada, certain firearms are banned outright. Fully automatic firearms and many semi-automatic rifles fall into this prohibited category, making them illegal for civilian ownership. Handguns are classified as restricted or prohibited, with tight controls on their use, storage, and restriction. The debate over gun control in America is highly polarized, to say the least. Mass shootings have sparked calls for reform, but political gridlock makes comprehensive reform difficult. In 2020, following a mass shooting, Canada introduced a ban on over 1,500 models of assault-style firearms. And in 2022, the Canadian government proposed a national handgun freeze, which would prohibit the sale, purchase, or transfer of handguns. In Canada, gun control has, generally speaking, broader public and political support, with relatively less opposition from gun rights groups compared to the United States. So then, the US and Canada differ markedly in their approach to gun rights and gun control. The US emphasizes constitutional gun rights with a strong gun culture and fewer restrictions, whereas Canada prioritizes strict regulations aimed at ensuring public safety, viewing gun ownership as a privilege that must be tightly controlled. For more videos on the Second Amendment, please subscribe.